Good evening, everyone. We are back once again with our Don Bluth film retrospective. We've got a month after this. We've got 4 more weeks, 4 films left, and we're all done. It's another retrospective that's gone dead quick. We're still
I would
in the
love if World War III began as soon as we were done. Like this was literally, we are the main characters. We had to finish this first. That would be the thing.
I mean, I hope not, because we've got a lot of other I can't get my words out. Retrospectives planned after
I
this
don't
one,
know.
but
I'm getting kind of bored. It's like, when you watch a TV show and there's a plot going somewhere, but it's a year down the line. You're like, why haven't we done this yet? And you're like, where it's going, and that's what World War III is at the moment. It's like, right, come on, guys. Like, I ain't gonna last forever. I'd like to at least see it.
World War III, that's a cheery subject matter for a film that's probably one of Don Bluth's most wholesome and innocent films, right? We're talking about 1994's A Troll in Central Park. This was not the title of the film when I watched this film as a kid. Just for the UK, apparently, the film was renamed Stanley's Magic Garden, and that was the film that I grew up watching.
I don't like the sound of that.
It does sound a little bit Jimmy Savile-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's
But that's
he puts them on his knee, and
there's a bit of, I know it's like innocent and nice, but like when he first meets Rosie in this film, he gets a little bit too excited when she kisses him, doesn't he?
A little bit. It gave me Animaniacs vibes.
Yes, yeah.
It was quite but the whole thing did in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Rosie, the character, reminded you of an Animaniacs character, which I'll let you explain about later on. But A Troll in Central Park is the film that we're talking about. This is Don Bluth's lowest grossing film out of his entire filmography, but not the one that lost the most amount of money. I'm guessing that's probably going to be like Titan AE, his last film that we'll review on here. But even Don Bluth himself has turned his back on this film. In an interview, I think that actually it's in a magazine, I think in 2001, the July, there's a quote where he's turned his back on the film and he says, quote, "The development of a story is like the development of a child in a womb. It takes time and it must be done right. And building A Troll in Central Park taught us this lesson the hard way." So even him, the director, is like, yeah, we kind of fucked up with this one.
Is it because they based the troll on trolls?
I'm not sure. They do look like the crazy haired one. The trolls' toys, like growing up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I didn't mind it, but that's a different kind of troll.
Yeah,
to me. It's basically if you had Tinkerbell fuck the troll that lives under the bridge, you'd get that.
And he does live under a bridge. He lives under a bridge in this film.
Yeah, but what's that famous troll that lives under the bridge? What's he called? With the goats?
Well, the story's called The Three Billy Goats Gruff, but I don't actually know what the
did the troll have a name? But that troll. Put him with Tinkerbell, you get this.
Could you just knock my audio down just like 1 or 2 bits, please? So this film for me, I loved watching this film as a kid. This would be in heavy rotation. The music has kind of just embedded itself in my brain. So it was really nice going back to this one this morning and just hearing the soundtrack again, hearing those songs, and even knowing like a good chunk of the lyrics. It's weird how stuff like that comes back to you, right? And I used to love this film as a kid, and my mom would watch a lot of the films with me when I was younger as well. And this was one of her favorites as well. She was excited about watching this one as well today. And I think I know why, because when I rewatched this film today, it was a nice little trip down memory lane, but this film just didn't grasp me as much as I remember it doing when I was younger. And the reason for that is that I'd probably say out of all of Don Bluth's films, this is aimed at a very, very young audience. There's not a particularly involved story. The story is quite weak, in fact. There's lots of almost key jangly moments to just keep the kids occupied. Oh, look at the flowers. They're dancing and having a song and dance number now for 5 minutes, and the plot's just going to stop for a while. Stanley as well, the character, is just this sort of wholesome, happy, laughing, dancing character, which is fine, but when you're older, it just gets a little bit annoying, doesn't it, after a while? I don't know.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought Stanley as a character was kind of not great. No, I don't want to say bad, but it wasn't.
He's just nice.
Yeah.
He's good, wholesome, not a bad bone in his body, and that can be quite nice to have a character like that, I suppose. But it is very just surface level, isn't it? There's not much.
And then it went
really...
all Pinocchio with Thingy turning into Thingy.
When the kid turns into a troll.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know how there's the tail and
and he turns into, yeah, that's a good comparison.
That's what I mean.
Actually.
It looked like that, but he doesn't. Yeah, he's just a whimsical character that's there. He's neither bad nor good. Like if he wasn't in the movie, obviously it would be a different movie. But he's one of those characters you don't miss. Like it could have been another troll.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to pinpoint like a favorite character. I thought a lot of them were like that. I don't think there's anything special about really any of them. But like you say, there wasn't like loads of depth. It wasn't that, but it was a fun movie.
I think it's got a good message behind it. It's about, you have a dream and following it through and believing in yourself and just being a good person. Stanley is just this vestige of hope, nice things. He enjoys beautiful things. He enjoys flowers and nature. And there is a lot more than I remember, quite a heavy-handed environmental theme to the film about we could live in a world of flowers and we should be living in a world that's absolutely green. Some of the lyrics in that song are quite overt. It's just that no one cares about the world now. It's obviously set in New York City as well, so it's very built up. It's very concrete jungle, and there's a strong environmental theme in there. And they're all good themes for a kids film, aren't they? It's have respect for nature and just be a good person and hold on to a dream and whatnot.
It's a good person.
It's a nice film. It's fine. I think it's just because when you look back at Don Bluth's filmography and the films that we've talked about so far, you have really quite mature themes and stuff like the Secret of Nim and The Land Before Time and An American Tale. And yes, they are aimed at kids predominantly, but there are some stronger themes in there and stronger subject matter that is even challenging to watch as an adult and maybe you have more appreciation for as an adult. With this one, not so much. I'd say this is kind of, like Winnie the Pooh is just wholesome. It's just nice. Yeah. Don't think about it. That's like the equivalent of this film, I think, for me.
But I think the animation makes it look, it's still got that like Black Cauldron-y kind of, do you know what I mean? And the colours, and I think a lot of it and the way it opens as well does feel very like it could be dark, it could be this. So there's still that element, which like Winnie the Pooh is more like bright colours and fun, you know. I mean, obviously it has its little dark bits, but I think this is more primarily that kind of art style.
I'm glad you mentioned Black Cauldron because I was going to bring that up too. When we get introduced to the world of the trolls at the beginning and it's all very grey and you've got the built-up castles. I think you mentioned Maleficent as well, Sleeping Beauty aspects in there. I think all of those are valid comparisons and they definitely are there. I would have loved to have seen more of the troll world. I wish we'd have cut back because we see a couple of them at the beginning. We see like the guards and we see where it's almost like it's in occupied territory, isn't it? Stanley's harboring flowers. I was going to make an Inglourious Bastards reference, but you haven't seen that film yet. We need to watch that film. I can just imagine the trolls coming in like you are hiding flowers underneath your floorboards, aren't you? Can you point them out to me? But I liked all that stuff. But then after that, after the intro and when Stanley's banished and he goes to Central Park, you have Gnorga and her husband, and then that's kind of it. And it feels very small scale after that.
It feels very like that's when it became more kid-like, and it was like, oh, now it's going to be whimsical and fun. But it wasn't inconsistent with the tone, I don't think. I just think it was it was just one, like I say, that's when it became more kiddie-like. And you had that sort of element before, but they went, let's not go down that route.
What did you think to the two sort of child protagonists in this? Because I found the kid absolutely insufferable in this. Even as a kid, I remember thinking, oh, he's kind of a brat. He reminds me of Sid from Toy Story a bit. It might be the haircut. It might be the haircut.
That's what it'll be. No, but he turns into he turns into Pinocchio, doesn't he?
Yeah, he turns into like the pig. Yeah, I didn't even make that comparison with Pinocchio, but I think you're absolutely right. I think the character that stands out for me the most in this one is the villain Gnorga, and I didn't realize. Well, I realize now how strong the Ursula comparisons are. even kind of like Yzma a little bit from Emperor's New Groove, which I know came out after this, but I could hear the voice, and it sounded like a voice actress that I knew, and it reminded me of someone. And I was watching it, I think, is that Eartha Kitt doing the voice of Gnorga? She does the voice of Yzma, and it's not. It's I'm probably going to absolutely butcher the pronunciation here. Clarice Leachman, I think, is her name. She's an actress who's had like 22 Emmy nominations. Like, she's one of the most lauded actresses of probably of all time, actually, when it comes to Emmys. She's got so much personality, Gnorga, in this. I think it's a fantastic voice performance for the character. She's the only character for me in this that feels funny, compelling with the performance. I love Dom DeLuise as Stanley, but I don't know.
Song at the beginning, that's the best.
Oh, the Queen of Mean that she sings. Yeah, the villain song. Yeah, that's my favorite song in it as well. It's a great song.
She has the most. Yeah, I think she's the most memorable.
Yeah. And you know, we're getting closer with these villains that we've had. Well, we didn't have a villain in Thumbelina, but the film itself felt very Disney-like. This one, we've got a villain now. We've got a Disney-esque villain, and I think it all comes together by the time we get to Anastasia, where we get the full Disney vibes with the music and the memorable villain, and it all slots into place there. So yeah, hands down, she was my favorite character in this one. There were other bits as well where she sends the tornado through Central Park. It's kind of funny to me because this is set in New York City, one of the most, you know, bustling cities in the world. And yet it feels very alienated. You don't really see many people around. You have the little kids' dad and mom who go off to work, but there's no one walking through Central Park, really.
That's because there's a tornado.
No, I know, but it's weird. Like, there's not people out and talking about this. Like, why is there a tornado
as well?
No, but I'm just thinking, like, you hear it on the news report at the end, but it's just weird to me. There's no one around.
Just like, there's no one around during the tornado. It's like, I know that. That's because they're hiding in their houses.
It's not just that, though, is it? They turn Central Park into this barren, evil, desolate wasteland as well, which looks great on animation. You know, it's a cool sort of like end boss stage, I guess, when darkness is all coming to the world. You've got the visual juxtaposition of nature sort of like fighting back against evil, and it's all there and everything there. But the actual animation during that part towards the end, when you've got I keep forgetting that Gus has got Rosie in his little red trolley, and he's left Stanley, and he says, like, we're going back home, and it's all very isolated. And then you've got Gnorga chasing them down on a bicycle. That was a bit strange when she just shows up on a bicycle.
I think that's great, though. It's that randomness of just like, okay, why not?
But the animation in that chase, it reminded me of Dragon's Lair, you know, the video game stuff that Don Bluth did in the 80s. Some of how the chase sequence was animated and framed, like the POV shot of someone chasing you. It really reminded me of that.
I've not seen any of that, to be fair.
We watched a few cutscenes, didn't we? I don't think we've watched the whole thing, but it's really nice animation. Loads. Yeah. We've got some comments. Bath Time says, it's the lads. It is. We're back. And he says,
what if one day it's not? And we're both women now. We wouldn't be the lads.
Bath Time, did you just assume our gender? How fucking dare you? JDC says this movie marked Bluth's third and final collaboration with Charles Nelson Riley, the voice actor for King Lort. He previously voiced Hunch in Rockadoodle and Killer in All Dogs Go to Heaven. Yeah, it's the last movie as well that Dom DeLuise worked with on. Well, it's not his last film of all time. He went on, you know, many years after this, but the last one that he did with Don Bluth. He's probably been the most recurring voice performance out of all of Don Bluth's films, going all the way back to The Secret of Nim. Tell me so what did you think to the actual animation in this one then? Did you think it looked as crisp?
I like the animation. I think, as I say, it had that dark kind of look to it, a little bit like it was a bit more mature. It had that kind of feel to it. I liked it, though. It was very Animaniacs in a way, which is weird because that is a bit more glossy. Like, do you know what I mean? But like, it's a bit brighter, but it did give me those kind of vibes when the characters were doing the things that they do. Yeah, I liked it. I thought the animation was great. I thought it was fluid. I thought it was great.
You mentioned that the little baby Rosie in this reminded you of Mindy. Big Baby and Mindy, from Animaniacs.
Put Big Baby with Mindy. At first, I genuinely thought she was like retarded at first. I thought, oh, they've got like a spastic in it, but but she isn't. She's just a kid.
Fuck's sake. I think the animation's really good on the human characters again. I always keep saying about how lifelike he makes the characters. What I was really surprised about is the voice actor who plays the dad. He's like a lawyer, isn't he? You know, he's a workaholic and he leaves the kids and goes off to work. Jonathan Pryce does the voice of the dad. You know, Elizabeth Swan's dad in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else to talk about this film because it's quite surface level. Strong Alice in Wonderland vibes from the Dancing and Talking Flowers.
I did get that. Yeah. I did, and it's the thing is as well with this movie just having fun things. That is what Alice in Wonderland does.
Yeah.
But Alice in Wonderland does it because you're like, okay, cool, and it's just another one and it's weird. Whereas I think the kind of comparison you were saying is it's that very kid-like kind of, oh, there's flowers over here. It's done for that reason rather than just to being strange kind of thing. But yeah, I got that quite a few times.
I would have liked the film to end up, because Stanley's dream was that there is a troll kingdom where everyone's happy, everyone's living in this idyllic Shire-like environment and everything's all good and nice and wholesome. I would have liked to have seen sort of a roundup of that at the end where he goes back to the troll kingdom, because we get a tiny little scene at the end where, well, Gnorga's turned into a rose bush and she's kind of lambasted all over the tabloids and the newspapers that she's not a fit ruler anymore.
That's a good point. Whilst I remember, Gnorga, doesn't she also look like, what's her name from Sword in the Stone?
Madam Mim?
That's it, Madam Mim.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
She has a kind of, there's a little bit of a,
and like transforming people into different things.
Yeah, and her manner, she reminded me of her quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. I really liked the music in this film. We've touched on the music a little bit, but we can go into it a little bit more now. So the soundtrack was composed by Robert Falk, who did the soundtrack to Rockadoodle. I remember liking the soundtrack to that as well. The main theme was quite memorable to me in that one. For a long time, there wasn't a soundtrack release for this film, but then in 2012 they released a CD of it, but it doesn't have any of the sing-songy songs in there. It's just the orchestral score. And the reason for that is that the masters that they had of the actual songs had the movie's sound effects hardwired into it. They didn't have separate versions available, which is really weird to me. So yeah, the only way that you can listen to those songs is by watching the movie or watching those scenes on YouTube. I really like the songs. I love the score as well.
That's so weird though. That is a really weird thing.
Strange. I think some people on YouTube have like done clean versions. They probably ran it through.
It's still odd that no one's done that officially.
Yeah. But again, like no one went to see this film. No one barely remembers this film.
A few thousand people went.
I guess so. Yeah, 71,000 at the box office. But this has been attributed to, well, for a number of reasons. Gary Goldman, who was the co-director of this film alongside Don Bluth, he said that there was barely any promotional material for this film, and that Warner Brothers Pictures, the distributor, how do you say that? Distributor, there we go. They didn't have any confidence in the film, so all of this goes along with it. But even if this did have more publicity behind it and promotion, do you think it would have been a massive hit?
I don't think it would have I don't think there's any staying power in it. It's not iconic enough to have actual staying power. So it would have had a bigger turnout, but I don't think it would have stayed with people.
I know that with some of Don Bluth's other films that we've talked about that maybe didn't make much at the box office, but it always does well on home video. There isn't actually any information here that I can find to see how well it did on video, but I remember seeing the adverts for this film ahead of a bunch of other Warner Brothers films, like we've talked about with a few of the previous ones. And of course, I mean, I had it on video anyway, so I feel like it was advertised more through home video, perhaps. This film was actually done, though, and ready to go in 1992. This was put into production right after Rockadoodle was nearing completion. but there was a little bit of problems with the production difficulties, the production companies and whatnot, and the financiers wanted Thumbelina released first before this one. So this just this sat on a shelf for 2 years before it was released, and then it was released and no one went to see it, which I suppose is a bit of a shame. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a bad film. It's an unremarkable film.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was fun.
The animation's still solid. I think the main problem. Great. Yeah, no, the music's the best thing for me in this, hands down. And I do like the villain. There is some nice animation in there. It's still Don Bluth, quality animation. The biggest problem for me is just the story. The
thing about this is one of those that, if you didn't remember it as a kid fully, like if you didn't know the actual movie title, you just remember this film that you watched and there was like a couple of flowers and there's a troll, and that's all you'd kind of remember. It's one of those you just feel, oh, I saw a movie when I was a kid, and if someone if you saw it now, you'd be like, oh yeah, I think I saw this as a kid. You know what I mean? It's not a stay in power, like, yes, remember that movie.
Well, I remember watching this at a very young age.
I guarantee there's at least one person out there who's a fucking huge fan and has 5 copies of it, all different versions.
I read a blog post where someone was defending this film to hell and back. They were comparing it to like Citizen Kane and Star Wars, and I did wonder if it was a sarcastic blog post.
Got its audience,
but I think it was legit. They love the troll in Central Park. They love the character of Stanley. They said the fact that he's unwaveringly good is what humanity needs. And it's not bad to have a character like that in a story. And I agree with that. Like, if you want a character who's just really, really just naturally nice and wholesome. But I don't think it makes for the most interesting of protagonists for a story. I think you always...
Do you know who he looks like? Do you remember Recess? Do you remember
the main character?
No, I was thinking... So there's a little fat kindergartner called Tubby. And he's ginger and he's a fat guy.
Hang on, let me have a look.
And he wears like war paint and stuff. He looks like
a little bit,
yeah,
I guess. The hair's very similar. The hair's very similar.
Yeah. And he's fat and little.
JDC says this troll movie may have been criticized for not being as edgy as most of Don Bluth's other movies, but another surprising fact is that this movie's writer, Stu Krieger, worked on The Land Before Time. Holy shit. I wonder if this film had problems along the way, production. I looked everywhere for some behind the scenes on this. I thought Wikipedia would have my back. I even went onto YouTube. Sometimes there's like a 10 or 15 minute featurette of Don Bluth talking about the film. I can't find anything on this film. My DVD copy these are the special features: the theatrical trailer, scene selection, and the fact that it has an interactive menu. That's all that was on this DVD. So,
it's what you want. Do they still release DVDs like that?
I don't. Maybe now that like Blu-ray and 4K's out, maybe they just think, oh, just get the film on a disc, put a menu on it, done.
Probably. They don't have the cool ones where like you'd wake up at 1 a.m, you see Donkey jumping up and down, being like, "Pick me!"
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had I wonder if I still got it. My Shrek 2 DVD had this front cover where you could hit a button and it would have Donkey going, "Shrek and Donkey on another whirlwind adventure." You just keep pressing it until you get tired of it. There was also the X Factor Pop Idol.
Yeah, that was
a special feature on that. It annoyed me that you couldn't pick anyone else to win outside of Shrek, Puss in Boots, or Donkey.
It was that was a good time when DVDs actually were a thing.
Bath Time says, I remember The Monster Squad being the most incredible film ever, and I saw 20 minutes of it a few years ago, and it was awful. That's a horrible feeling, isn't it? The rocky road of nostalgia, like you just have. That's why I don't want to go back sometimes and watch films or TV shows. When I was a kid.
This isn't good. I don't like it.
And it is the pitfalls of getting older. You have different outlooks.
It's kind of like an ex-girlfriend, though, isn't it? You look back and you go, eh. Yeah, that's basically it.
A little bit. I don't think this is a bad film. I think it's a bad film. It's a nice film.
But I also don't think my ex-girlfriend's that bad. So. You know.
I didn't know how you take to this film. I thought you would hate this film, but maybe because I set you up earlier, didn't I? I said, yeah, I watched it and I wasn't as keen on it as I was as a kid, and then you were like, no, I really like it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I said, because you lowered the expectations, it might have been like, oh, this is actually all right. You know, this is good. But it was nice and fun and family fun, and that's That's all you want, just calm.
Did you have any favorite scenes in this? I think we've agreed on favorite song, haven't we? It was the villain's theme.
What's the guy's name? The one with what's the villain's name? Gamora.
Ganorga.
You know I'm terrible with names.
Ganorga. So her sidekick's called Lort, I think.
He's the tall vulture-y looking thing, isn't he, with the mustache?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It was the first scene where they talk. I found him hilarious.
I like the list of nicknames and pet names he has for her, and this relationship that the two have, and she's in this big, like, king size bed to herself, this lavish, bedroom, and he's just on the floor in this tiny little dingy little mattress or whatnot, and stuff like that was fun. He was fun.
So, yeah, that was my favorite. That stands out.
Yeah, I like the dynamic between the two. That was funny. It's the typical villain and sidekick archetype. There's not really much to say about this. I remember the ending wrong to this one. I always thought that Stanley actually did turn all of New York into flowers and grass and green. But it's just his dream at the end, isn't it? It's almost like a dream to the audience. Is like, think about nature. Nature is good. And this could be the future.
Yeah, but you do realize humans already live there. You can't just change it considering they're there. You can get rid of them, but that's not what he was doing.
Because I always thought it ended, he uses his green thumb, and then all
life... Is that what it is? The humans stay there with his plants and shit, weren't they?
Well, he just brings life back to Central Park, doesn't he, at the very end? All that comes back. And I think that's where it ends. But then obviously the film carries on, and you see all, the bridges blossoming into bloom, and the skyscrapers and the Statue of Liberty. And as a kid, I always thought that he went a bit too over the top. He turns into Poison Ivy at the end of the movie and just turns the whole world into green.
He might do. He's drunk with power.
Yeah, exactly. He becomes a new tyrant at the end. Unironically, that's kind of like Samwise Gamgee in the Lord of the Rings book, when he takes possession of the ring at one point. In the book, he has this crazy vision of him being a ruler, like, because he's a gardener by trade, and he sees himself as being this like gardener overlord and covering all the land in green. It just reminded me of Stanley at the end of this movie.
That's
not a spoiler alert for Lord of the Rings, by the way. I know you haven't seen it. That's not in the movie, so you're fine. Bathtime says the greatest DVD special feature of all time was the original Fight Club DVD, had the menu to Never Been Kissed by Drew Barrymore for like 1 minute. I think I have that film.
I never had the DVD of that film. I've seen that film, but I've never had the DVD.
Fight Club. I've got it here. I don't know if this is the original DVD.
When did it come out? 94?
Oh God, I should know this. Does it say on here? 99, I think.
99, okay.
I think it was 99. I've only watched that film once. I need to go back and watch that again. I guess we were going to say final thoughts on Stanley's Magic. I keep calling it Stanley's Magic Garden, a troll in Central Park. Fucking hell. But we're only like 28
Jimmy's
minutes
Magic Knee. That's what it's called.
Here we go. JDC, says, since you guys are doing The Pebble and the Penguin next week with Tim Curry voicing Drake, I bet you could watch Tim's roles as the Lord of Darkness in Sir Ridley Scott's Legend to get some vibes. I've seen that film. Yeah, no, I've actually gone back and watched some scenes from Pebble and the Penguin, because that was one of my favorite films growing up. Sort of similar to this one. I used to watch it a lot on video. But I think as a movie, definitely overall, I prefer Pebble and the Penguin to this one. And Tim Curry's great. He's always solid. So I can't wait to watch that film next week. Although it is a film that Don Bluth has turned his back on, which I found out recently. He wanted his name taken off the movie. And it is. It's not in the credits.
They want their names taken off everything. Like, fucking Dio didn't like Rainbow in the Dark, and it became huge. And just...
Oh, really?
Yeah. He didn't like Rainbow in the Dark. Like, at all. He was like, nah, it's too poppy. But
it kind of is. I see what he's saying, but
now he's dead. He doesn't get a say. So, what was I saying? Yeah, people with their names taken off. Like, to be fair, at the end of the day, you did work. Your work is your work. You did things, and everything you create, you should be proud of.
I think it's because the studio came in and there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and the project became compromised from what his original vision was. So he was like, right, I'm out. I don't want my name on this thing because this isn't the project that I was making.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because Don Bluth is a perfectionist. We've seen that before. He likes to have complete control of his product. But then sometimes when he has complete control of a product, you get stuff like Rockadoodle. So I always think the best bet is to have a visionary, to have a creator, but sometimes you got to have that studio. It's got to be like a perfect balance. It's got to be a compromise, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there is an argument to be had for let the creator just make what they want to make. And sometimes you'll get a piece of art that's just uncompromised.
It's so, the thing is, it's so like, if you have an idea, a company would like, to invest money into it, they have to know that like they're going to make that money back. And it's one of those things, I think, as a creator or whatever, you might know the story and you might know how to end it well, blah, 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 blah. But as a company, they know what people would enjoy as an ending. You know what I mean? So that's why they'd push those things. So it's really, it's weird, isn't it? Because I would agree, let the creator do the creative thing. But I think a lot of things do well because companies would know, like, people would like that ending, so change that, so they change it, and then it does X amount of well, and so they know where, like, they know more about statistics and all that crap. So it's that kind of thing of like, would as much work do as well?
Yeah, it's because I can think of examples from both sides where studio meddling has caused a film to become massively shit and filled with stuff that doesn't need to be in there. And then other times, maybe if you've got sort of like a crazy director that wants to do these really whacked out things, the studio's like, let's rein it back a little bit. Like, how about we do this, what's tried and tested? I think if you can get them working in concert with each other, that usually yields the best results.
Yeah, this is the thing. But so many companies, people with money don't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
And people without money, they can't afford not to, like, they can't afford to go against the, it's a weird one. But yeah, I think if I was to have to pick one that is the best route, I'd say let the creator do the creator's thing. If you know what I mean, if you had to pick one, because I think there's a lot of things, there's so many projects when it comes to songs as well, and you know, loads of stuff where people look at it and they go, yeah, they might have written that, like, but that's not the song I wanted. There's so many things. So yeah, I would say let the creator do what the creator does, but this is why certain things do well at certain times and all that sort of stuff.
And ultimately, in those situations, if it's good, great. If it's bad, you've got one person to blame.
Well, this is true, but as I say, you've also got to think of it in the sense of, like, it's even little things like Halloween. Great movie. I absolutely love that movie. But if it wasn't called Halloween, if they were going to call it The Babysitter Murders. Now, if they called it that, would it be as iconic? Because the fact it's called Halloween, it's watched every Halloween by so many people. So little things make the biggest difference.
Yeah. And was that a studio decision to change the name?
You were?
Was that a studio decision to change the name?
I can't remember fully. I can't remember fully what it was, but it's little things like that. And it's things like that studios and stuff might pick up on that an author or someone or whatever might not. And they'll go, look, if we do this here, if we change the name to this, because no one's going to really buy into that name, they change the name, suddenly the song does really, really well. And they're like, oh, okay. But it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at this comment here. I'm trying to find the video because I want to share it on the stream if we can. Have you seen Tim Curry in Red Alert 3?
No.
He talks about capitalism.
I don't think.
You stall for time. I'm going to try and find the video.
What did you say before that? You said something. I'm going to try and find the video. And
I said stall for time.
Oh, I was talking about something, but what was I talking about?
You can pick a new topic if you want.
Yeah, I know, but I was talking about something. And I feel like I needed to go on more, and I forgot what it was that I was saying.
Right. Okay. I'm going to share it. I'm hoping there's no copyright attached to this, which would be very, very, very unfortunate if it is. But let's do that. And hopefully we can see that on the stream. There we go. So bring that up.
See, the thing about that,
it's so good.
From my angle, is I couldn't hear it, so I'm there like wondering if everyone else could.
Oh, you couldn't hear it? No sound. Oh, you are fucking joking me.
So I wonder if everyone else could.
Hang on. This is bullshit. Stall for time.
I don't know if everyone else could hear it. I don't know if it was just me. But
no, there was no sound. Bath Time says there was no sound. I don't know why.
Not just me.
This is some bullshit. People need to see this if they haven't seen this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know because I've not seen it.
So I'm so technologically minded, aren't I? Here we go. Also share tab audio. This should work. Okay, can everyone see that? Everyone see it? Here we go.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
It's, well, for now.
There we go. Can we all hear that time?
I heard that one.
Good. I love how it looks like he's about to crack up. He's having to suppress the laughter. He's like, space. Okay, now I know which button I need to hit to get the audio. Okay, we're good. Yeah, Troll in Central Park. Would you recommend this to anyone who hasn't seen this movie? How would you rate this one?
I wouldn't recommend not seeing it, but I can think of 1,000 movies to watch probably instead. Like, you know what I mean? It's good. Like, if it was there, I wouldn't say don't put it on for the child. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a fun little movie, but there's just more movies I'd recommend instead.
That's like if I asked a magical riddling sorcerer would they recommend the movie, and you're like, I wouldn't not recommend the movie, but if I was watching this movie and it was there, then I might be inclined to watch this movie.
Wow. Yeah, that's my thought on it. I wouldn't. Yeah, as I say, I'd recommend it if it was there. Like I say, there's more to. There's more things that it's a fun, whimsical story. But the fact that there's no actual story in the sense of would you care if you didn't know the plot? It's just fun. There's also that element, and sometimes those movies can be better because you can just sit there and go, and that's it, and you have to have a clue what's going on.
Well, we've still got 3 more movies in Don Bluth's 90s filmography.
And Princess and the Pea is not one of them.
Princess and the Pea is not one of them, no. We've got Pebble and the Penguin, we've got Anastasia and Bartok the Magnificent. But so far, in terms of the 90s ones, we've had Rockadoodle, Thumbelina, and this one. Would you say there is a marked drop-off in quality so far from his earlier films to these ones? Or do you think they're still good, but in a different way kind of good?
I don't think there's a drop-off in quality. I think it all stands up. I just think it's like just nothing's hit that mark that it did because they were so good. You know, it's that kind of thing. I don't think they're necessarily bad. I think quality's dropped off in the sense of yes, they were here and now it's kind of here, but it's weird. It's like, you know, when you know, like, well, quality hasn't really dropped, but you can see a drop. Does that make sense? But you know what I mean? Like, it hasn't fully dropped, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it's on a decline. I think it's sort of we just haven't had the same sort of hits that we had before.
I think Don Bluth struggles with not having that one studio behind him, backing him all the way through. I may have mentioned this in one of the earlier streams, but he's kind of been passed around between all these different film companies and whatnot. But to me, his strongest 2 out of his filmography, there is an argument to be said there for The Secret of Nim, absolutely. But for me, it's An American Tail and The Land Before Time so far. And that had Spielberg and, you know, George Lucas as well kind of overseeing it. And Spielberg was very much there, you know, passing notes to him, saying, like, I think this would work better. It goes back to the studio thing again. And I feel like those 2 came to like a perfect agreement there. Don Bluth didn't like it. He didn't like that he didn't have full control over those films. And that's what he always strived to have, was full control over a product. But I don't know, maybe it was the fact that it had Spielberg sort of influencing it a little bit. And that's why you had that quality on those earlier films. Not to say that, you know, because he's made more films without Spielberg than he has with. But I'm just wondering why there was that drop-off in quality. It could be the studios just didn't have faith in the projects and they weren't pushing the distribution. I think, in all honesty, it was that pendulum swing of Disney. You know, Disney were firing on all cylinders during the 90s, and it was pretty impossible to keep up with that and compete with it. But many studios tried during the 90s. There's lots of Disney clones.
There was GTA clones.
Yeah, Saints Row. Saints Row being probably the most successful one of those clones, definitely.
Yep.
Bath Time says, did you ever see Mark Hamill in some sci-fi game? Might have been Wing Commander. Yeah, I've seen a few cutscenes from that one. Yeah.
I saw him in Big Bang Theory.
Oh, he was in that. James Earl Jones was in that.
I
I don't want to say.
I also saw him in New Hope.
Yeah.
He did that.
And unfortunately, we saw him in Last Jedi as well.
But not in Rise of Skywalker.
He was in Rise of Skywalker.
Well, okay, he technically was, but he was, yeah.
He was a ghost. He was a ghost.
Yeah. That's all I meant.
He was a ghost in a really bad wig. Looked like a reshoot.
And the weird thing is, I don't really remember anything about that movie except a knife.
Consider yourself lucky.
It was.
Be thankful for small mercies.
Yeah.
I think we've said everything we can in a Troll in Central Park. Hell, we probably could have ended this review about 10 minutes ago. There's just really not a whole lot to say on this one. I think closing for me, it was a nice trip down memory lane today. I think it's a fine film. It's definitely made for very, very young kids, and I think they probably would enjoy it. They'd like the bright colors. They'd like the saccharine sweet moments with the dancing, singing flowers and whatnot. The villains aren't massively threatening. They're comedic all the way through, and they're funny. So it's the most you of you films, isn't it? I think that's just how I can put it. Really,
to describe it.
As an adult, there's not really anything there that's gonna grip you.
Do you think you'd be able to read Braille if your fingers were numb?
Probably not.
You kind of fucked then, aren't you? If you're deaf and your fingers go numb. Not deaf, sorry, blind. Even.
I want everyone to realize who's watching that those kind of questions, the one that Dale just fired at me right there, this is pretty much constant daily basis kind of questions. I don't know where he thinks of these.
It's just there.
You should have heard the question he asked me before we went live. I probably don't think I can repeat it on live stream, but yeah, oh boy. Bathtime says, why did everyone get so annoyed about him chucking his lightsaber? I thought he did that in Return of the Jedi. Okay. Now I know you're joking.
No, it was his father's lightsaber. What happened to his green lightsaber in the sequel trilogy?
No, he still has it. We see it in flashback. We see it in flashback. That's it.
That doesn't count. Does he still use, what happened to it in the movies?
We don't see him use the. We only see him use the lightsaber when it flashes back to when he attempted to murder his nephew.
See, you don't actually see it, do we? It's exactly no. I'm not happy about that. And Luke's is my favorite lightsaber.
Yeah, it's mine too. Yeah, the green one with the handle's just cool as well with the little bronze bit on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bathtime says you should look at what
Dogwarts is. Well, remember when you get them in cereal boxes and you get the little ones?
Yeah, I had the collection. Yeah, so there was Mace's. It was episode 3, wasn't it? It was Yoda's, Mace's, Vader's, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Luke's, wasn't it? It was those.
Yeah,
six.
I know there was Luke's because I definitely had that.
And there was a little maze in there. There was a little ball, and you moved it in there, and it was a little maze.
Remember when cereal was fun?
The amount of Frosties I went through to try and get that last lightsaber. I think it was Vader's was the last one I needed. No, Yoda's. Yoda's was the last one I needed to get.
Was it?
To get the whole set. And you'd open it and you're like, fucking Mace Windu's again. I need Yoda's.
You know Samuel Jackson has the lightsaber still and it has bad motherfucker written on it.
Oh, does it? That's cool.
Yeah.
He introed the film Revenge of the Sith for the 20th anniversary with Hayden Christensen. Random Cinema in the US, both of them just came out and introed it.
That would have been more fun with us.
Right before we got thrown around like a rag doll, it's like, oh look, there's Samuel Jackson. Yeah. Right, I guess that'll do it for our review on A Troll in Central Park. Next week, so next Monday, 8 p.m. again, we will be live talking about Pebble and the Penguin. I haven't taken this out of the shrink wrap yet. I remember liking this film a lot more than A Troll in Central Park, but I went into this morning going, oh, I loved that film as a kid. I can't wait to watch this one. And I enjoyed it for what it is, but it wasn't as good as I remember it. I really hope I don't have that with this film, because I remember absolutely loving this film. There are moments in this where the animation does take a dive and they take some shortcuts in the animation. You can see sort of background characters are just still whilst other characters are moving. I think that's probably I'm going to need to read the behind the scenes in this one, but I think it's probably the studios that meddled with it and maybe wanted to cut corners or get it done on the cheap. So it's going to be interesting. It's got some great music in it, though. Barry Manilow again, the guy who did the music for Thumbelina. Bath Time says look up Stremio plus Torrento plus Real Debrid. You'll save a fortune on DVD purchases. Oh, Streamio, Torrento, and Real. Oh, I know, but I like having physical copies. I like having physical copies of stuff.
Now
Because when the machines take over, when the internet goes down and you can't stream anything,
the machines take over.
I'm going to be fine. Well, I mean, actually, I wouldn't be able to play it, would I? If the machines went down and all electricity went off, I still wouldn't be able to watch it. But I own this. I purchased this. I now own this.
I can't wait till the machines take over. There'll be some friendly machines as well that are like, oh no, we want to save the humans. That'd be great. It'd be fun.
We're going to be living in our own personal sci-fi movie, aren't we?
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
You'll be there perched under a bridge of this like tin can that's talking to you, and you'll be like, cool, you've made a new friend.
Under a bridge, just like Nirvana and just like Stanley from this movie.
There you go. See, could be coming more to like reality than we.
Right, I think we're going to round it off there, guys. So, if you've seen the movie, please let us know your thoughts on A Troll in Central Park or Stanley's Magic Garden if you're from the UK. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you think of the movie, but also stick around for next week. We'll be talking about Pebble and the Penguin. We've got about a month left on our Don Bluth retrospective, but we do have some other retrospectives planned afterwards, which are just going to be just as interesting and good, hopefully. Later this week, on Wednesday, I'll be live once again with JX Editor, talking about Andor Season 2. It's going to be the next 3 episodes that get released on... Wait, did I say Wednesday this week? No, sorry. Thursday this week. We pushed it a day ahead. Thursday this week, I'll be live with JX Editor talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Andor Season 2. So I'm going to have to try and get 3 episodes watched on Wednesday and get that prepared, and then we'll be talking about it the day after. In terms of the cinema, I think we were just saying that it's going to be Superman, isn't it? I think the next thing that we see on the big screen together.
When is that? When is Superman?
Let me find out, because I wasn't sure if that was in June or July.
I couldn't remember when it was.
Superman is going to be released on July 11th. There we go. So we still got time.
The week after Black Sabbath.
It is, yeah. No, I need to book my time off work for that, actually. I need to get on that tonight. Right, I think we're going to round off there, guys. Hang on. Have we had another comment come through? Okay, Bath Time won't be able to make that stream. Yeah, I'll catch up with you soon, man. If you get the episodes watched, always, just drop a comment on it, and I'll get back to it as soon as you can, because, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. Okay, we're going to round off there. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. We really appreciate you guys keeping the conversation going, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.